Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
As always, guys, make sure you subscribe to all three channels Evolutionary. Again, we can't post there for about a week. EEARTS and our newest Heart's Ohm. And I'm still trying to decide where we put this one as we make it because it has a lot of important information in it. And so when we look at our skin, and we might not be aware of the fact that every time anything comes in contact with our skin, there really is the possibility and likelihood that we are actually taking it into our internal body.
Mm-hmm. A lot of things like sunscreen, lotions, things with these really strong smells, a lot of makeup, so many beauty products that we thought was okay to put on our faces is actually aging you faster because your organs have to do extra work to filter through the toxins. And I don't know if you're one to look at the ingredients, but I started doing that a long time ago. And once it got to where I couldn't pronounce anything, I stopped. And I do think that that's been beneficial moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. And so, again, just think about this. When you add Epsom salts, magnesium sulfate to your bath to, soothe achy muscles, it's absorbed. It's absorbed. A portion of it is taken into you. And we've found, and many others have found too, that with all the nanu around, adding borax to your bath, it doesn't seem to be enjoyed by the nanu. So that's a way to detox yourself again.
Right. And let's see, you could probably put maybe a quarter of a cup, just start small if you want to work on that and see how it works for you. But what I've noticed is when we go to the stores, to the grocery stores and come back, I look at the aura and they are full of those little black specks. They're just kind of all over the place. So you need to literally rinse that off. And I think the other thing people forget is how important the energy body is and how it needs to be clean because all of this information is transferring to your 3D body.
Yeah, we think again about all those years that we were told to utilize sunscreen. And then when you look at all the agents inside that sunscreen, some of which may cause the big C. Oh, well, again, it'll make people think that the SUN is what's bringing about the big C, but in reality, it's the chemicals that are bringing about. Again, our bodies are porous. Porous, that's a key word. We're not as solid as we think. As, most of us is literally vacuum. So things can penetrate through us. And absolutely, we have energy bodies as well as these physical bodies, and our consciousness extends out into the universal consciousness field. But that which can penetrate or lie on top of the skin can end up going within the body. And I made one picture bigger and made everything bigger. When you look at the different layers of the skin, you can see the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis. And the thing to get across is the fact that this is not an impenetrable barrier. No, not at all. And again, we understand that every day, if we're living in a city and we're walking by thousands of cars every day, we're inhaling that which the cars are exhaling. And at the same time, if we're walking out in the forest and there's thousands of trees around us, we're inhaling what the trees are exhaling.
Mm-hmm. And that's how things should be. It should be more symbiotic. And when one being is giving off energy, it should be to feed the other being and having things be in this natural cycle. So we're not so close to that natural cycle anymore. It's a little bit, toxic.
Everything about the system, as we've covered, is toxic. And, the big reveal is it's been done at the highest levels consciously. Although there are many, many CEOs and executives that probably don't even understand how things work themselves because, again, they're just simply concerned with the bottom dollar. 2 principal absorption routes are identified for absorption through the skin. Transepidermal absorption, principally responsible for diffusion across the skin. The resistance encountered along this pathway mostly arises in the stratum corneum, maybe transcellular or intercellular. Transfollicular, shunt pathway absorption. The skin's appendages, mainly sebaceous glands, sweat glands, hair follicles, offer secondary avenues for permeation, which are considered as shunts, bypassing the transepidermal route. So you could think about it like trees' roots extending down into the ground, and the rain comes down, and some of the rain, might basically ride the pathway down through the roots into the ground. So basic principle of permeation, initial transient stage, shunt pathway predominates, but when a steady state has been reached, diffusion through the stratum corneum becomes the dominant pathway. It's fascinating that when you go into and search absorption through the skin, just like we find with those little wikis about those Anunnaki people and all sorts of the things they like to correct us on, you find a lot of the same thing when it comes to absorption through the skin. It's as if the control system, one article was saying, well, nothing of any real significance can really transfer through the skin, as if, admitting, transfer through the skin happens, but don't worry, it's not significant. Oh, we know all about they're not significant. Again, this is where a lot of people, maybe with the flat earthers, might think that we live in an impenetrable dome, but your skin is not impenetrable. And again, this is as above, so below. Yeah, we do live in an atmosphere, and the atmosphere maintains the ability to maintain life on the planet as we know it. Yet you could penetrate that atmosphere because, and when we compare the size of an individual to that of the entirety of the planet, we're very small. And it's the same thing. Small things can get through our skin and go into our body. Nanu. But that's not where I'm going with this. So we've covered that aspects of it. Do humans and other mammals absorb any oxygen through the skin surface? This is a good little question put out there. This may not seem like a very important question to you, and you'd be right. Well, it's debatable. This question came up, and I assumed, yes, cells do generally. Cells absorb O2 and produce CO2. Even plant cells do this through passive systems, but I wondered if the fact that the epidermis is adapted to be a barrier might mean that it would not. But then I realized that the epidermis absorbs water. O2 and H2O both diffuse freely across cell membranes. Yeah, absolutely. That which can go out, you do sweat, right? Well, that pathway exists. It could work the opposite way.
See, these are things that I wish this should be basic knowledge, going into kindergarten, going into first grade. Things you put on your skin go into your body, and oxygen being so very, very important. If you're putting creams, if you're putting salves, things of that nature, rubbing it all over your skin, don't think that could not interfere with oxygen absorption.
But mention also, there are beneficial things that you can do.
Yes.
Like, what's that stuff called that they used to, when you guys remember the Little Rascals? They used to talk about, what's that nasty smelling stuff?
I can't remember. But night clay is no. Oh, no.
We're gonna work on that one. It doesn't smell good. Castor oil.
Yes, castor oil.
Castor oil. Castor packs. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Very important. Those can really do a great job in breaking down tumors and whatnot under the skin. So this is something you'd want to apply probably at night, putting a castor pack if you're having problems with digestion. The castor oil is really awesome because it releases those healing T cells that the body needs to help break down anything bad and escort it out of the body. And, I always encourage people, please do your own research. However, if you're having cataracts, if you have vision problems, you can put a little bit of castor oil on your eyelid at night. And I say at night because it can blur your vision a little bit because it's going in there, it's penetrating so deep, it's starting to heal. And granted, these things could take months, could take years, but the benefit to that is it's healing from the core.
And again, in this world, we have to say, we are not physicians, we are not MDs. Consult your medical practitioner for his, expertise. Again, ask your medical practitioner how many hours of nutrition did they have. Now, if they're a nutritionist, they probably had 6 years. That's a lot of nutrition. That's one thing. But in MD, in some states, it could be as little as 14 to 16 hours. And you will find many lay people that have much vaster knowledge than an MD when it comes to nutrition. It depends on the individual. It really, really does. Everybody is unique again. So they bring up this question. The problem is when you Google it, ask the internet if humans or mammals absorb oxygen through their skin, you get an interesting result. And an often repeated phrase, no, human beings cannot usefully absorb oxygen through their skin. That's not really an answer to that question, is it? I wasn't asking about usefully. The answer is actually yes. Yes, but yet it'll say no, they cannot usefully. But then the answer is yes, we can. Actually, there's been scientific studies done that we can. So, it's fascinating to see. This one right here, this is from PubMed, NIH. Oxygen absorption by skin exposed to oxygen supersaturated water. Ozone can do wonders, and we'll talk about that in other videos more, but this is one thing that we do, and in fact, we just invested in an oxygen concentrator.
Mm-hmm. Which I think has a lot of different things you can do with it, a lot of different applications, because you're inviting the oxygen into your body more directly. And again, this is something that we do. We are going to do a video on it, but we can't give any medical advice at all. We keep having videos pulled for, misinformation. So however this video looks, it's going to have to be cloaked, but it's going to be a good one, because when it comes to oxygen, when it comes to ozone, it can be applied in ways and really help you, like mold people. I've heard of them having mold come back in the blood, and it's one way to get rid of that. Just one.
As much as they try to hide all this is all coming out. And people are starting to understand this. It's making its way into the mainstream. So what I really wanted to talk about again is the fact that, we're not as solid as we think we are. And good things and bad things can be penetrating your skin every single day. And they are penetrating your skin every single day. So why not utilize this knowledge in a positive way? There's a technique called pore breathing or skin breathing in Qigong. And one of the things that the guides are always telling us whenever we get work done from our guides energetically, because we do get energy work from our guides on a regular basis. And what they'll tell us to do is just to go into a meditative state and pore breathe. And we do. And this is really the technique that healed my Lyme disease issue. Because, again, I've shared with you guys in the past that I did get bit by a tick. I brought it in. They tested the tick. They tested me. I had Lyme's. I had the bullseye. And at that time, I was literally working in a pharmacy. I worked for this pharmacy for around 3 to 4 years. And yes, I was working in a pharmacy. It was a case where I had other family members working at the same pharmacy, and they did treat you very well. And there were, great benefits and all. And I was still a little bit in the system. I was still quite a bit in the system. I knew certain things that I've been studying all the esoterica since I was a little kid and first able to read. But I was not really on my path yet. And the Lyme disease was about getting me on the path. As I was hiking in Connecticut in January, and there was snow on the ground, and somehow I got a tick. I mean, that's mind blowing. It really shouldn't happen. There was 6 to 8 inches of snow. Snow just fell, and yeah, and it stayed on my arm for several days. I didn't even notice it was on my back of my arm. So, about 3 weeks after being bitten, I felt like I was 85, even though I was like 29. I felt horrible. And yeah, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. Now, working in the pharmacy, I started to do a lot of research about Lyme disease. And in fact, we had many clients on all sorts of heavy-duty IV antibiotics like vancomycin, rocephin, on and on. And they, for the most part, didn't seem to be doing any better. In fact, they seemed to be getting co-infections, developing other issues, and kind of deteriorating. And the little voice in me said, "You're not going that route." So, I did a little research, found out that in the town I was in, there was a person that had a background that I found intriguing. They were a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncturist, herbologist, and a naturopathic doctor, and made an appointment. And really, the thing that struck me was all the questions at first were about my emotional state. And the first interview with the person lasted 90 minutes. And, the techniques used were always varying. And, it was just mind-blowing because it wasn't like anything you got in a regular MD setting. And it set me down that course because I was drawn to prana, chi, life force. In 7th and 8th grade, I started to study Qigong and techniques of drawing the life force into the body. So it really was a past life thing that was coming back. But it took a wake-up call, me getting Lyme's, to really set it in motion and to really have me shift gears, totally shift my perspective on things and my priorities. And so what I learned was this technique, above all others, was one that truly is just insanely powerful. But again, it takes time. First, you have to kind of you have to fake it till you make it, so to speak. You have to visualize it. You have to tell your body this is what it's doing, and then it will start to do it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And one thing that you can do, and I have to throw this in there, and it's really cool. You can energetically take your body and put it out in the forest so that when you are poor breathing, you are getting that prana inside of you. But this is one of my favorites, is the tree. And we just had someone the other day mention, while we were in the process of doing our work, she had visions of an oak tree. And what was going on is that oak tree is calling her, saying, "Come to me, let me help you." And you can have this symbiotic relationship with a tree, and it can help heal you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one technique that you could do that's especially powerful is ask a healthy looking, vibrant tree for its help. And see if you get a yes or a no. You'll just go with the impression that you get. You'll be surprised how quickly you'll probably get either a yes or a no. Like, come sit down next to me, sure. Or maybe it's fighting something itself, and it's not strong enough to give you, the life force. But again, animal matter breaks down, it does feed the plant matter. And of course, the plants also balance us, the O2, CO2 exchange route. So you could sit with your back leaning up against the tree, or you could just simply sit in the vicinity of the tree. And as you breathe in, again, visualize the pores of the skin. Realize they're open. They are open. As you inhale in, visualize the life force coming into the body. As you exhale out any toxins, any dis-ease, any negativity, any emotions that are holding you back too. And visualize it. You could see it coming off you like a gray cloud. Now, again, when we look to colors, see, this is another way to do it. You can do it without a tree, and you could just simply visualize yourself in a bubble surrounding your entire body and inhale in the prana, the chi. And as you get better at this, you might even visualize it going through the different layers. This is what I used to do when I was going to school to help me memorize the different layers and different parts of the body, is basically see it going through the different layers of the skin, then the fascia, going into the muscle, going in through the layers of the bone, oxygenating the blood, and keep the chi in the bone marrow. And, again, this is what we want to draw the chi in to do. It's super oxygenating the body. Yeah, we can actually. Now, the average person, go back to that question. So, can people really absorb oxygen? They say no, human beings cannot usefully absorb oxygen through the skin. Take a Qigong master. Can he? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, because, again, it's a matter of practice and time, and you might as well start today. Why not start today? It doesn't matter if you're 84, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20. It doesn't matter what your age. You're never too old to learn something new. The other thing, too, is in these times, like with me starting to learn some of these techniques back in the 80s and 90s, what took years of practice now can be done in days or weeks because of where we are with the yugas. We are going farther out of the dark age. Our potential is incredibly high, incredibly high. We can see constant miracles, or what we would perceive as miracles. But the reality is we haven't been taught these things. Like Cindy's always saying, why don't they teach this in school? Because, again, they don't want you living 200 years. And some might say that's impossible. Well, it's pretty impossible when they poison the water, food, and the air like this. Yeah, unless you could get far enough away. But there are legends. And one of our guides is a Qigong master that lived 300 years. You can do this. And, you might also find this referred to as Taoist breathing. And there are beings in the Taoist tradition thought of as immortals that through practices like this, they've increased their lifespan to the point where they seem to be immortals because they barely age compared to the average person, and they lead extraordinarily long lives. So again, just simply inhale, breathe in the prana, the life force, the chi. If you're able to hold the visualization of just simply breathing it into a bubble, you could breathe it in through the layers of the skin and through the body, through all the body tissues. If you can go so far as to breathe it into the bone marrow and the blood, that would be of very, very significant benefit. But whatever you can manage, and just work on maybe 5 minutes, and then try to boost it up. This is what we do every night going to bed, the pore breathing technique. Why are we looking at a brilliant green eye? Because this is the color you want to visualize around you if you are just looking for some general healing. This emerald green is one of the safest colors to visualize. You could also visualize pure white light, which contains all the different frequencies. But the emerald green is one that can really help with healing the physical body in a very natural, safe way.
Yeah, certain colors are natural and safe, and certain colors like reds and oranges, you want to be very careful how you use those. But blue is really so good for bringing peace and getting, taking away pain. And the stronger you practice, the more you practice, the better it gets and the more effective it is. And I got to tell you, yes, this practice does take time, but time is going to go by whether you do it or not. So it's better to just get like a little practice started, just get your foot in the door and allow things to grow from there.
Absolutely. And again, the visible light spectrum is the smallest little sliver of reality, yet each one of these colors has a different frequency. It's always about frequency. We were talking about the significance of just changing from 440 hertz to 432. Well, in reality, again, the system changed 432, the natural order, to 440, which is disharmonious. And what does it lead to? It leads to tension, aggravation, irritation. Again, we can use colors, visualize a color. What are you really doing? You're visualizing a frequency. And certain frequencies can bring about healing. Some frequencies can bring about peace and also bring about a cessation of pain. And then when we look over to the purple spectrum, that can actually be very, very antiviral, anti-parasitic. So, and it could also drive away lower frequencies as far as lower frequency entities. So if you wanted to see yourself all surrounded by a violet light, that's going to be really, really uncomfortable for the nanu.
Mm-hmm. Right. And again, these things do take practice. They take time, but it's really time well spent. We want to do things that we can actually take with us when we move on. And when we learn these tactics, this is something we can take with us. Everything else in the 3D world, well, it stays.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for your support over on Patreon and Ko-Fi. And if you need to make an appointment, it's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com. The links to everything is on every single video. So if you just go and come over to any video, like we go into tuning into nature here, again, all you got to do, just for people that aren't familiar, look at the show more. And there you go. So, all three channels, and then Brighteon, Bitchute, Rumble are over there, as well as a link to our website, evolutionaryenergyarts.com, Ko-Fi and Patreon. It's all there. As always, guys, much love. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.